Y'all are now behind enemy lines. We're trying out a new intro. I didn't like it. Hey there, how you doing, everybody? Gene Berardelli, Ross Galloway, here with you on another lovely Wednesday evening live, or maybe you're watching on replay. Either way, we're glad that you're here with us. How you doing tonight, pal?
You hit us with the y'all.
I know. I tried it on. It didn't work. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel like me. So, fuck it. We're not doing it.
By the way, let me open this up with a joke, man, because I know we're gonna get hot and heavy. So I met a guy in this southern town.
You met a guy. That's awesome.
I met a guy, and he figured out very quickly that I was originally from New York, and he said, "Hey, I do an awesome imitation of a Yankee. You want to hear it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to hear it." So he goes like this. I'm an asshole.
I've met that guy.
Super clever. I had to give it to him. That was funny.
Yeah, I met a few of those guys. That was awesome. People are starting to gather into the chat and get on the screen right now. I'm seeing them roll in. Rick Robinson, he apparently knows where you met that guy. So
that was good. I'll give it to him.
You. Good for him. Glad you guys are here with us. As Ross said, this is probably going to be one of the heavier shows we do. We're talking about some possibly dark stuff, given the news of the week and the major news that occurred earlier today as we're taping this, that happened in Minneapolis. But I'm not bringing down the mood just yet. I'm going to ask you guys to, wherever you are, please like the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you're so inclined, subscribe, especially if you like what you're seeing here in this show right now. Now, I got to tell you, at least from my perspective, pal, I hate talking about incidents like what happened in Minnesota within the first 24-hour period, because I don't want to be like one of those political assholes out there that are looking to jump on a bandwagon or a cause or an I told you so. The way saying y'all earlier was not me. That's not me either. I usually like to keep at least a 24-hour moratorium on talking about this stuff. But because I'm seeing so many people out there politicizing this in advance to stem off legitimate discussions that should follow from this, I feel like we have to talk about it. And it's pissing me off.
Gene's a gentleman. I don't think we have to wait for nothing. I think we jump right into it. It's a topic of the day.
Why is... Okay, I'm trying to understand the comment here from Rick. My culture is not your costume. What is he talking about?
I think he means the less government, more fun shirt you're wearing.
Well, I mean, less government, more fun is my culture. Shout out to our friend Brad at Less Government, More Fun for supplying free shirts to us. It's tie-dye. Is tie-dye his culture?
I mean, Rick is a weirdo, so possibly.
No, well, okay, then possibly, okay. Maybe he thought it was camo. Was it giving a camo vibe? I don't know. Well, whatever. But either way, no matter what happens, I am an all-around appropriator. So really doesn't matter to me.
I mean, speaking of, I appropriated Rachel Maddow's glasses for the show because I'm trying to look serious tonight.
Rick said I can't say y'all. Yeah, I was going to ask about the Maddow glasses. They're looking good on you. You look like a very serious and straight-laced legal secretary. Probably with like one of those pen skirts or whatever.
In a previous life.
Yeah, we got people saying hi to me. Hey, Zelda, how you doing? Good for you to be here. Coffee Grinder in the house as well. All right, I think we let people settle in. We've done our 5 minutes of bullshit. Let's talk about what happened in Minnesota. There was a unaliving, a mass event. I'm going to be very careful with my words so we don't get booted off of YouTube. I know we're on Rumble and we're on X, but I want to try to maintain all relationships. There's a lot of viewers out there that are there with us from YouTube, so we like you guys too, even though you're choosing the wrong platform. But there was an event that we all know about involving guns and children, and at least 3 people have been unalived, including the perpetrator, who turned out to be a very psychotic, hateful person that we can get into. everybody likes to look for motive on these situations, pal. Clearly, in this situation, we've gotten information a lot faster, but the information we've gotten will go away very quickly because it involves someone who shares views with those on the left, in my opinion. Am I correct in saying that and setting up that argument?
Yeah. I'm just curious how long we're going to beat around the bush before we say what's on everyone's mind.
Well, let's set up how this was set up at first. This was the initial discussion from the Minneapolis PD concerning motive for the shooting.
The question was on a possible motive and a relationship to the church or to the school. I have no information to share on a motive other than saying again that there was some sort of manifesto that was timed to come out on YouTube. It's been taken down and our investigators are going through that to try and develop a motive from that. Additionally, there are these 3 search warrants happening in residential locations, and we may very well, find more information or writings that could give some sense to that, but we don't have that now. And I cannot confirm a relationship between the suspect or his family and this church at this time, but that's obviously something we're looking very closely at.
All right, so all that being said, let's catch everybody up on what we did find out, because the person that perpetrated this, according to the police, is someone named Robin Westman, formerly Robert Westman. And the reason why we know this is because this psychotic individual posted a video on YouTube, which has since been taken down, that depicts an alleged manifesto. This whole video was posted before the gunman went to Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis and began to open fire. The channel belonged to Westman, whose mother used to be an employee at the church. The video included a rant from this psychopath where you see shooting target practice with a photo of Jesus. One of the many magazines of ammunition that were depicted in the video had "Kill Donald Trump" written on it, along with other different epithets about Hispanics and statements about the number of people that passed in the Holocaust wasn't enough. Also saying "F those kids." And he babbles on in this video about BlackRock, Exxon, Pabst Blue Ribbon, accepting each other's differences, voting for someone named Brandon Herrera, who maybe, pal, you can fill me in on and do some quick research on, showing off smoke bombs that had gas written on it for a certain population from the Holocaust. And there was also a handwritten manifesto that shows in the video talking about his ramblings and etc. A lot of disturbing imagery and information to deal with here, pal. The base thing that you can say right now is fucking evil and psychotic.
Evil?
And that's just the base level. I'm just talking about base level.
All right.
All right. But now I want to show off here what the left has been doing with some preemptive messaging. This is the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry. Listen to this. Ask yourself whether this is a mayor or if this is a PR spin job trying to control a group narrative.
And I have heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids.
I wonder if Mayor Fry would be having that same message if this shooter ended up being a straight white male. What do you think, pal?
No.
Hell no.
Don't forget.
Say it with your full chest. So the answer would be hell no.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget the George Floyd fiasco started in that very same place, and all cops were painted with that broad brush by the left. Most white men were painted with that broad brush by the left. That's the birth of DEI, the birth of defund the police, right? They always paint with that broad brush, and not rightfully so. In this instance, however, I think it is worth looking into a very small subset of the extreme, radical, violent left who has, for the most part, been the main perpetrator of active shooters, mass shootings over the past few years. And that subset are men who think they are women and can turn into women biologically somehow.
Yeah. And by the way, this has become a common story across America. I know that we don't want to get political and we don't want to divide people, but you know what? They're already out there doing it and trying to tamp down any legitimate discussion that could be out there concerning the connection between a far left trans movement and any violence. But there's a history we've seen of certain shooters. I believe there was one in Tennessee that comes to mind, where they didn't release a whole manifesto and motive and all that for years. There were lawsuits over releasing it, and it turned out to be a similar situation. So isn't it time for a discussion as to whether or not this community that the left wants to protect at all costs has some sort of correlation with violent ideation, or if this is actually more of a mental issue that people have? The shooter in this case turned out to be someone who claims themselves that they had mental issues. Who's to say that gender dysphoria, which is recognized as a mental condition, wasn't part of that? And the reason why I'm tap dancing around this so much is because I know this is going to get us thrown off of YouTube at some point. And frankly, I care because I think we need to stay on platforms that don't like us in order to bring these discussions to the forefront. And if we show that we're able to have these discussions in a civil way, all the better. But whatever. That's the optics of it. Blow up my spot. Blow up my spot. Do it.
Gene's afraid I'm going to blow this whole thing up tonight.
No, do it. It's okay.
Yeah. So you have gender dysphoria is one real question, right? Because obviously there's something going on in that brain that causes you to believe you are in the wrong body. Even more concerning, Mr. Berardelli, is the medicines that they put these people on. Now, we've been focusing a lot on puberty blockers and hormones. Hormones obviously affect the brain and can make you very aggressive. And antidepressants, which these people also usually suffer and are placed on SSRIs, right, along with their hormone treatment. There's been no real studies about how aggressive you may become when you start mix matching these medications in a young developing body. And I think that the proof, it's empirical at this point. We see it, right? The Denver shooting, there's a non-binary guy. The Nashville shooting, that was a trans. This one, a trans, right? It's just over and over and over again. And if YouTube won't allow us to ask the question, then so be it, man. What is the point then? We have to dance around and make up code words for things. This is ridiculous. Clearly, there is something wrong, not only with leftists, right? Democrats are mentally ill. Liberalism is a mental disorder, coined by Michael Savage. Brilliant quote. But this subset is dangerous, right? Because they get half of Antifa are non-binary or trans.
And in the effort to stem off, let's not demonize a community, apparently it's okay to demonize certain communities. I want to pull this post up on X. This is from a friend of ours. Well, not friend. I would say frenemy, adversary from the past. A councilman from Brooklyn, New York, a Democrat named Justin Brannan, someone we've known for quite a long time. And he's out here in these streets saying that we should villainize certain populations, even though Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry is telling us not to. The thoughts and prayers aren't working. We need to make it as hard as possible for someone to commit mass unaliving. Thus far, lawmakers have failed, and that's on all of us. I'm trying to figure out what that means. But no more than the NRA Republicans who refuse to take weapons of war off our streets. So it's okay to go after pro-Second Amendment people like we've had on the show recently and demonize and vilify them. But if you notice some sort of deviation from society in another group, that you can't talk about, that you, how dare you spread hate, isn't this just as much spreading hate?
Of course it is, Gene.
It's
And
scapegoating.
the group is white Democrats. They are racist. They are violent. They're deviant.
Yeah, and they're devious. I did a response to Justin Brandon, basically saying, you know, of course, let's pass more laws because all those successful laws we passed outlawing murder stopped all the murder in the world. I don't understand how people think that you can legislate someone into conformity. I'll give you a great example from something that we saw firsthand in New York. It's not on the same level as violence and criminality and all that. It had to do with Metro cards. It was really simple. The MTA in the People's Republic of New York City decided to add a $1 surcharge every time you had to print out a new Metro card. So people started holding on to their Metro cards to avoid the $1 fee. Pretty damn simple. If someone wants to get a gun, whether it's outlawed or not, they're going to try to get a gun, especially if they're really motivated, like this psychotic piece of, you know what, piece of human excrement, Robin Westman. You're able to do it because you found a way to do it. People will always find a way to do what they want to do, regardless of whatever law you think is going to stem the behavior. And that's human nature. I think the solution, and we've talked about this on past shows, is more good guys with guns. That's the behavior you should be encouraging.
The other solution is bring back bullying. I know that might be an unpopular take, but in schools, when you got guys that are wearing black fingernail polish and putting their hair in little pigtails and pony buns, bring back bullying, right? That worked when I was a kid. I don't remember any trans shooters in the 90s. I just don't remember that, right? What happened between now and then? Tell me, Gene, what do you think happened?
People got more free with their mouths and less free with their hands. That's
well, yeah, and by the way, in the chat, you're telling me to be nice. I'm making a point. I'm not trying to get anyone.
I know. I'm playing around with you too. Don't worry about it.
So, you know, I mentioned SSRIs earlier. And yes, of course, that is a medication that should be used when it's needed. But like any other medication, when there's a profit incentive, doctors overprescribe them. And they're giving them to young people in their teens. And they're giving them hormones, right? If you give someone testosterone, estrogen, and SSRI, they're smoking weed, they have THC in their system, they're probably vaping with nicotine in their system. As far as I know, there are no studies with all of those chemicals mixed together at that age, what the outcome is. And what we've been seeing since all of this stuff started happening, unless someone can give me a better reason why all of a sudden trans people are lighting up schools and other places and churches as active shooters, I'm all ears, right? But I'm a simple guy. I put one and one together and I get two.
I mean, it's maybe as simple as, Newton's laws. Each action has an equal and opposite reaction. When people voted to reject an agenda in the 2024 election, this could be the equal and opposite reaction to that. But go ahead.
I mean, it could be. Another question that I have, and I would love feedback on this, because maybe I'm wrong, but what other condition, right, medical or psychological condition is there where the care is affirming care, right? The only one that I know of is the trans, the gender dysphoria, where we affirm what is going on in their brain and we give them chemicals to affirm whatever they're thinking in their head, right? We don't affirm depression. We don't affirm eating disorders. We don't affirm cancer, right? We treat it and we try to fix it, right? I don't understand why gender dysphoria is something different.
I tend to agree with that, and it's quite a modern idea that you need to affirm gender identity, because gender identity is a fairly modern idea. I want to get back to the idea of, more, the way to deter bad guys with guns is having more good guys with guns out there. At my law office, I know of an attorney friend who lives in New York, took the appropriate courses, got their permit to carry, and is part of a group within his synagogue to protect the weekly services at his church by having walkie-talkies, by packing, by being in touch with the police. And that's perceived as okay because of the historic significance of that community and the oppression faced for so many years. I don't understand why that solution, which seems to work, by the way, hasn't been an incident at his synagogue. Why isn't that solution a model everywhere else?
Yeah, and when you look at Minneapolis and left-wing cities, these are the same people, by the way, who want to defund the police, right? They don't want police. And for the record, most of these active shooters are not stopped by police, including this one. This one looks like it took its own life after it shot those kids, right? The police were nowhere to be found. God bless them, but it takes them a few minutes to get there, right? There is nothing wrong with good people carrying weapons to protect them, their families, and their neighbors. And that is the way it should be, especially since you have lots of retired law enforcement and military guys that would be more than willing to go to church and carry a gun. Most of them wouldn't charge you a dime. They would just sit out there because they have nothing better to do. Trust me, I'm one of them.
And would you volunteer and go do that?
Of course. If a school was like, hey, the threat level is high, we need a few guys to come down here and hang out in the parking lot or somewhere else, I would do it. Of course.
No, that's absolutely cool. We want to know what you guys think in the chat right now. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Rumble, you're on X, hit us up with a message in the chat about what you think a solution to this sort of gun violence would be. And while you're there, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, whatever it is that you need to do. I am sick and tired of the race to see who wins the debate when an incident like this breaks out. Human nature being competitive that it is, I guarantee you when news of this shooting broke earlier this morning as we're taping the show, a lot of politicos ran to find out the identity of the perpetrator. Who was that person? What color they are? What orientation are they? What's the motivation? And now that information has come out, and the motivation seems to be an anti-Catholic, anti-children, anti-normative values message, anti-Trump message. How long does this story stay in the news cycle?
Well, the story itself might stay in the news cycle, but the other than Fox will not even mention the identity or the gender identity or a political persuasion of the perpetrator. They just won't do it, right? And personally, I think you're kind of right, but this is where I always say, you can't take the high road. They always do it, right? So we have to do it too. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not going to minimize what happened. This was a few children got shot, and that is god awful, right? But when you extrapolate gun violence or any type of violence throughout the whole country, there are people getting shot left and right every single day. And the media picks which ones that they want to exploit. Now, normally when it's an active shooter, the media starts licking its chops because they're hoping it'll be a crazy right-wing white male. And for the last few, it has not been that way for them, and they've been hesitant to even jump into the fray, right? Fox is the only one that's sort of talking about it, and they're always behind the curve too, because X clearly broke the story way before any of the television networks today as far as the identity of this person. I do want to say this, though, Gene. The identity of the person is important because that's what they do. But like when I try to be fair about it, right? This person was not only I'm trying to be fair, was not only mentally ill, obviously, right? But they were a terrorist. They used violence to further a political cause. So they were a domestic terrorist. Now, the problem is domestic terrorism, if we can agree that that's the definition and that person falls into the definition, then the Democratic Party has a problem because the left has been using violence in various forms over the past decade or so. And they have to clean up their own house, and they won't, right? So that means we have to do it for them potentially, right? We have to stop trans madness in the schools and over medication of children and drugs and puberty blockers and surgeries and castrations for young children. We have to stop. We have to punish severely anyone who uses violence during political protests, right? Because they're not protests. They turn into riots and borderline insurrection when they do that. But we have to use that terminology. You can't say mostly peaceful protest, right? Because that's not a thing. A protest is peaceful by definition. Otherwise, it's a riot or an insurrection. And that's what the left has been engaged in for quite some time now.
Yeah, and I would dare also say that the rhetoric, especially coming out of people like Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, talking about getting meaner and getting tougher and pushing back.
And kick them when they're down and get in their face and don't allow them at the gas station and go protest Supreme Court justice houses, right? That they're pushing the envelope in the hopes that a white male Republican gets back at them, right? But it hasn't been the case. We believe in the Second Amendment, but we are the most reserved group politically in the history of mankind. United States has more weapons than people, right? And we have not had a violent overthrow of the government or an attempt to since the Civil War in 1865.
But we've had a leftist shooter go after a member of Congress. We've had a shooter attempt to assassinate Donald Trump.
Twice.
Yeah. We have all these examples, and they're out there. I just don't understand why it's the so-called NRA Republicans that are the bad guys in this, because
that want to own weapons to protect themselves and their families from Democrats. That's why they don't want the NRA to exist, because we're trying to defend ourselves from the left.
Right, and we're trying to defend ourselves from criminals. I mean, why is it
same thing, the left,
that they're going to look, well, okay, fair enough, but they're going to look for these criminals and then look to do criminal justice reform to protect them, and then at the same time villainize law-abiding citizens for wanting and daring to want to keep their families safe and to do so within the strictures of the law. I just found this video. I've been vamping a little bit to find this Tim Walz video that we've used before.
Yes, because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator.
So now this is Tim Walz in South Carolina for the South Carolina Democratic Party from a couple of months back. We featured this on Buffoonology 101, one of our other shows. And just listen to this.
It's because he is. It's because he is. Oh. The governor's being mean, and the governor's speaking out on that. Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this. And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully, to watch this bully and to stop it. And when it's a child, you talk to them and you tell them why bullying's wrong. But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the shit out of him back. You push back. You make sure they know it's not there.
it's pretty easy to see how a statement like that can turn into a tragedy like this. Ferociously push back. Bully the shit out of them. When someone who may have mental issues, may have been bullied in their life on their own for who they are, or what they believe or whatever, hears that from someone that they may look up to. Lord knows who looks up to Tim Walz, but there may be people out there who do. And then you wonder, how does something like this ever happen? Oh, must be the guns. Are you fucking kidding me here? That's what I can't stand. That's the politicization I cannot fucking stand.
And by the way, Gene, whenever we talk about public safety, I have to throw this in. Do you feel safer today with George Santos behind bars?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here at halftime on the show. I want to thank you guys for tuning into Behind Enemy Lines. I'm Gene. He's asshole. But before we go any further here, I'm just remind you guys again to like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff. Subscribe wherever you're watching. And you know what? Let me just put the banner up so we can put that in anyway. Do all the stuff in the banner. And while we got you here on the internet, because we know you're on the internet, because we're on the internet right now, streaming live, check out our website, buffoonoftheweek.com. I become a little bit of a slacker, and I got to start updating that website more often. And also check out our merch shop at shop.buffoonoftheweek.com. The worst rhetoric you'll see there is maybe a call for somebody to go to prison. We're not going to incite you to do anything other than to like, share, and subscribe to the show. All right, so you want to talk about George Santos? We're going to talk about George Santos. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, I know you're kidding. We already know I won this debate. The people already said I won this debate, and I can move on knowing.
As long as you sleep well at night, Gene, knowing crazy George Santos is in a federal prison while this lunatic was running around at churches with guns.
I do sleep well at night knowing that George Santos gets no nice things. I do. Unabashedly and full admission.
Sad. By the way, real quick before we move on, I didn't get a chance to respond to this. You talked about Justin Brannon earlier as being like a quasi frenemy. Justin Brannon is a douchebag. That's just my opinion. But go ahead.
Well, isn't that the definition of friend? Well, listen, he wants to be the next congressman from Staten Island now.
I hope he wins.
Going up against Nicole Malliotakis. Wait,
I hope he beats her.
He can go after himself, but you hope he becomes a congressman. How in the world does that make sense?
New York is doomed. They deserve whatever they get. And Nicole Malliotakis is a rhino. Awful congresswoman. She deserves to lose, and New York deserves what it gets.
So you'd rather have a guy that you want to go fuck himself become a congressman than have someone who may vote your way more than half the time. Make it make sense for me, pal.
No. Nicole is not. I understand a middle-of-the-road Republican, right? Because those people vote with us more than half the time. Nicole Malliotakis is not a Republican, right? Please don't get that twisted. Pick one issue and tell me what she's conservative on. Yeah, I'll wait. You can tell me one.
I kind of like her anti-Cuomo stance, but
well, that's an anti-Cuomo New York inside baseball stance. Is she pro-abortion? Yes. Does she believe in green energy? Yes. Does she vote against many Trump bills if she doesn't get like salt tax for New York? Yes. Right? She's trash. I hope she loses.
Okay, fair enough. I was trying to figure it out. All right, so we're halfway through the show here. Let's talk solutions, because let's face it, we can all bitch and moan about a problem till the cows come home. You and I, we're like expert complainers. We do it really, really well and have been doing it for well over a decade on different airwaves. Let's talk solutions here, because the left's only solution is it's the fucking guns. Get rid of the guns. You shouldn't have a gun. No more guns. I say you got to change human nature. You got to deal with human nature. And the way you deal with human nature is you have to put people in check who seek to do you harm. My solution is more guns. My solution is it should be easy for me as a law-abiding citizen to legally obtain a weapon to allow me to utilize and enjoy my fundamental right. Why is that solution so offensive to so many people?
Because most people can't think straight, right? If you think about the Middle East for a second, right? The Middle East clearly has some problems, violent problems, if you will, right? And there's two different types of solutions, right? You have your long-term solutions and your short-term solutions. Long-term in the Middle East, we're talking about trying to moderate Islam a little bit, maybe bring some democracy, get their economy going. What's the short-term solution usually in the Middle East? Bomb the shit out of them, right? It's the same thing here. When you have violence and you have anarchy in the streets, you have two solutions, right? One is to long-term change human nature, fix the education system, hopefully get family values back in place, and teach people that it's much better to have a mom and a dad as opposed to a single mom who doesn't work and has 4 kids and doesn't watch any of them and lets them run the streets wild, right? The short-term solution is to arm up, right? The church should have had some armed guards, have more police, maybe put the National Guard in your most violent concentrations within the cities, right? Like they're doing in Washington, D.C., which seems to be working, by the way. Those are your short-term solutions. Do we want police everywhere and National Guardsmen everywhere for the rest of America into posterity? No, we don't, right? But that is the short-term solution, very acute fix. And then long-term solutions take longer, obviously.
I think everyone's misdiagnosing the problem. The problem is we're fucking lazy. We're a fucking lazy people, and we farm out our brains to our politicians and not care about who we vote for and vote down the line. And we farm out our safety to law enforcement and not take personal responsibility for ourselves. It is a welfare mentality. And when I say welfare mentality, it's not directed at any one segment of population. It's directed at everybody. We have been on cruise control as a people for a very long time. And why shouldn't we be? We're well fed. Our grocery stores are stocked. We have wealth beyond imagining in comparison to many peoples around the world. So why shouldn't we be doing it? Because things have been going so well now. Well, there was a time where we had a generation that cared about their own personal responsibility, who started businesses. We didn't have a culture of employees and employers. We had a culture of entrepreneurs and people who wanted to have their own business and had their own freedom. Somehow we lost that. We had a culture of people who wanted to buy homes. And now we have a culture of people who are resigned to rent homes and have someone else control whether or not they get to keep their lease for the next couple of years. We've become an inherently lazy people in all aspects of our life. I think what needs to happen is it has to get worse before it gets better. I think if a liberal city like New York or Minneapolis or wherever else wants to have gun-free zones, don't send the National Guard in. Keep your goddamn gun-free zones and find out. Let the states and let the cities be the laboratories of these ideas and check back in 5 years and see which side is doing better. The ones that allow open carry or concealed carry without a permit, or the ones who have 57,000 restrictions on you getting a gun, and see how your quality of life is between the two. That's the solution.
Now we're talking, Gene, because if I hear you, and I hope that I do, I think you're talking about a national divorce, and I'm all right with that, right? We could divvy up the coastline, and we don't have to have a big civil war again. We'll just have a national divorce. We'll go through arbitration and figure out who gets what, and then the true experiment can begin.
I don't think we can do that.
I'm only half joking about that, by the way.
I know you are, but just the nuclear weapons custody battle alone would be ridiculous. But anyway,
we split them evenly and
sure.
Mutually assured destruction. But let me just rewind for a second. How you talked about society as a whole has done this. It has been reinforced by the left over and over again. I'll give you like a current example. We're worried about speaking out because YouTube and Facebook might ban us, and old Twitter would have banned us already, right? Just for talking about things like this.
Yes.
What has the left done, by the way, Gene, with George Soros funded district attorneys when people have stood up for themselves? If you remember back in the 80s, Bernard Goetz on the subway when he was being mugged shot some black teens. They always call them black teens when they're trying to rob somebody, right? And they tried to put him in jail. Kyle Rittenhouse, Daniel Penny. These were all people that did exactly the opposite of what you said society was doing. They tried to defend themselves. They took personal responsibility for their own safety or the general public safety. And the left went after them, tried to destroy them, and tried to imprison them forever. And they were hoping that they would go to prison and get killed, most likely, because that's what would have happened to those men had they gone to prison. And that's what we're up against, Gene. So I'm only half joking when I say, I think it's time for a national divorce, or at least let's start the discussion.
Well, I think if you're going to take personal responsibility for yourself, you want to pull yourself by your bootstraps, you believe in defending others that are, that need your protection, do it in areas where that's welcome. Don't come to New York and do that, because you're going to get, hemmed up, just like Daniel Penny did. No, I say leave places like New York and Minnesota, and Minneapolis, and Detroit, and other cities. They don't want the help. They don't get the help. They don't get the assistance of the federal government. Don't send the National Guard to Minneapolis. They don't need to go there. They'd be better off and better served going in an area like, let's say, Miami, where there might be some violence going on, but it's not tolerated by the leadership there. That's what I think should be happening here. Let's have a true national experiment and see who ends up better off in the end. I'm willing to bet that those with right-leaning governments, and this is directed right at you, Gavin Newsom, they're going to end up doing better than places that don't. And I know how Gavin Newsom led to talk about like how the top states with most violent crime are Republican-run states, but then fails to mention how 8 out of the 10 top cities with the most violence in America are all Democrat-run. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 9 out of 10, and the 10th just recently elected a Republican. So that manipulation aside, it should be game on. Game on as to quality of life. You want to vote for a socialist? Go get them. Just don't call me when you run out of other people's money to spend. You want to have gun-free zones and you want to employ less police? Sounds good to me, but my tax dollars won't be there. I'll be in the jurisdiction that respects law and order. And I think maybe that's not necessarily a national divorce, but I think people who are willing to move and uproot their lives in order to get that little extra freedom, they should reap the benefits of that choice. And people like me who choose not to should choose to reap the whirlwind.
And now, just real quick, because I want to just go one level deeper on, you were talking about the cities in the red states. Mm-hmm. Obviously, most of those high crime cities have Democrat municipal governments, right? They also have, and people don't like to say this, but I'm going to say it, they also have the highest concentration of illegal immigrants, and they also have the highest concentration of certain minority communities, right? So you can't have an open and honest discussion on problems if you're not willing to actually say the truth. And that is the truth. It might be uncomfortable, right? But show me a majority white city with a Republican municipal government that's anywhere in the top 100 most violent places in the country. I'll wait. If anybody wants to Google it and drop it in the chat, show me where those demographics and those stars align.
We keep saying have an open and honest discussion. Nobody wants to have an open and honest discussion. Maybe we do, because you call me a nice guy. I call you a good faith broker in discussions here. I'm not necessarily going to say you're a nice guy, because that would ruin your rep. But we're willing to have open and honest discussions, mainly because we have facts and statistics on our side. We have the data points. Are you okay there? Would you lose your teeth? You lose your teeth there, Grandpa? There you go. We're willing because we have data points on our side, and we're able to not pull punches in response to someone's feelings. I think that the days of open and honest discussions are over, and it's now a matter of, and I've been saying this a lot in my family, sit in your fucking bad choice. This is the choice you made. This is the mess that you chose to sit in. Now fucking sit in it. And then when you cry for help, sure, I'll help you out. And maybe this is where government can be a little better. I'll help you out. I'll send you the money for your programs, but you have to cooperate when ICE comes into your jurisdiction and is looking for violent, illegal migrants. We'll give you this money, but you need to change your sanctuary laws. We'll help you out with this funding, but you need to pass more laws on the books for quality of life crimes and stop repealing them. Sure, we'll help you out with funding XYZ, but you need to add another 5,000 cops on the beat before we give you that money. I think that's the way you can legislate and cause change.
I have two more things to add to your list. Number one, they must repent, right? Just cooperating is not enough. You must repent publicly, openly, and in all corners of society, repent. Next, you are not allowed to move, right? This is why I favor the national divorce. You keep your ass in that shithole city that you created. You are not allowed to move away from it. You stay there and you fix it. Do not come to where I live with your stupid voting habits and your dumb ideas and your uneducated self and try to change where I live, right? Stay your ass in your shithole city.
I don't know how realistic that's going to be, but I mean, yeah. Listen, the reason why you, and this is a page from the Ross Galloway School of Negotiation. Make your asks big asks. If you want to have a true national discussion about policy and which is the best way to do it, make your demands as far in your favor as possible. And then when you just come back a little bit and show how you make a mighty concession, you're still ahead of the game on your side of the ledger. Little tip there for you guys when you're asking for your next raise or whatever. Ask for that big raise. You ask for that 50% raise, and when you get to the 20% raise, when you're willing to accept 10, then you know that you're doing it right.
Right, like I don't even know what I would put on the table to negotiate with the left, man. Because like all those things you mentioned, and this is the problem in political science today, and we talked about this a bunch of times on previous shows, right? If you take a political science 101 course, they talk about, like, especially in the American experience, there's a pendulum that swings from left to right. Every few years you get a Republican, every few years you get a Democrat. The problem is when you talk about like we should punish criminals and we should not disband the police, right? Those are not far right-wing views. Those are common sense. I don't even know how you could describe it other than middle of the road, right? So we can never start there, where it's like, you know what? You have a high crime area. You have to have good laws and lock up criminals and have more police, right? Like that means we're starting in the middle. And when we come off to give them a little something, we're back on their side of the ledger again. So to me, like, you have to go even further right. Like, I like when Donald Trump goes on his rants, right? What does he talk about what he wants to do with drug dealers? He wants to give them the death penalty, right? That's where you start. Because if I come off of it and say, all right, fine, life in prison if you are caught with more than a certain amount of drugs, now we're dragging them to our side of the argument instead of going to their side if we start in the middle.
Absolutely. Oh, Mets won. Okay, good. Swept the Phillies.
The Mets.
Got to bring some good news to the table here. Well, good news for me anyway. Fuck the Phillies. Yeah, the question becomes, can Donald Trump, in the limited time he has left, I saw a graphic recently saying that we're about 14% through his term, and it got me a little worried. Can Donald Trump create a culture among Republicans to have this mentality of, if you want something for your leftist city, you must give concessions to us to have it. Because in his first term, he tried to do it with sanctuary cities and tying funding to repeal of sanctuary policies. Didn't really work out. Is there someone in Congress who can be in leadership with the balls to be a Trump lieutenant in changing that culture? I think the answer is no.
I concur. There's no one on the national scene, and without things like term limits, when we accept that we have career politicians, right, that they just move either from one office to another, or they stay in one office like Congress for 30 years, you're never going to have change, right? I'm going to kick Nicole Maliotakis one more time, right? Because she's a perfect example of this. She is a career politician, right? With no integrity, no core values, right? If you look at the SALT tax, and this might actually negatively affect a guy like you, and that stands for a state and local tax deductions, where blue states that have very high state and local income taxes allow their people, or the federal government allows them to deduct that off of their federal income tax so they don't get double taxed, right? But in effect, what that does for low tax red states, it negatively impacts them, right? Because they're
and you end up subsidizing those rich fat cats in that blue state.
Yes. So clearly, if you are a Republican, you should understand that, right? It's just fair. But a lot of your New York delegation don't, right? No. And why is that, Gene? They have no integrity. If it was,
they want to get
let me jump in here. Just let me finish this one sentence. If it was a core value, if it was something that, you know, I'm in the party and I truly believe it, then I would vote my conscience and not vote to worry about the next election cycle. And too many people on our side of the aisle, and we like to play it off like we are this party of morals and virtue and values. But a lot of people on our side, they put their finger in the wind and they go wherever it blows. So you're not going to find a guy like Donald Trump on the national scene, and a lot of our local electeds simply suck.
Yeah, and it's half pragmatism, half lack of testicular fortitude. The pragmatism is, well, this SALT deduction is going to help my Republicans who are living in a state that is overburdened with taxes. And the other half is no one has the balls to confront anyone in the state because they know it's a losing battle to try to reduce state and local taxes. It's never going to happen. I've never seen a jurisdiction anywhere where you have a state lower a tax scheme, completely overhaul the scheme. Sure, they'll lower one tax or another, or they'll give a deduction, or they'll give a rebate or something like that. But you never see the overall scheme go away. So it's part and it's also the pragmatism is, well, if you want a Republican to go back from New York, you need to vote for me regardless of what my voting record is when it comes to these red meat issues. So,
but Gene, so the old pragmatism when it came to voting in Congress was more of a quid pro quo, right? It would be something like, all right, maybe the New York Republicans will vote, they're demanding SALT, but some Democrats in some other areas of the country will come on board if we throw them this bone. But the Democrats vote in block. It doesn't matter what we do. The Republicans are only doing it to save their own skin in their own purple district, right? So I'd rather just not even have them. Let's do what Texas did, fortify our areas where we are strong, get our elected Republicans from areas where there are safe seats. We'll just draw the lines like the Democrats draw the lines in their states, and then we jettison off these fake Republicans because they're not like moderate Republicans. They're just Democrats, or they're nothing, right? They have no core values. How can you ever trust someone who has no core value? It's not pragmatic in the sense that, we'll give the Democrats something this time because they're going to give us something later. They're never going to give us anything. So you should never give them anything, ever. You can't negotiate with them. And the people like Maliotakis that I keep bringing up, they're not negotiating with Democrats. They're negotiating with other Republicans. It never makes sense.
Yeah, and it's never going to make sense. So I say we leave it there, pal. We're not solving the world's problems on one show. Maybe 2 or 3 shows, and we want to continue it. But I think this was a healthy exercise to point out we're fucked. We're fucked either way here. We're fucked from our own side. We're fucked from the other side. And while we can have all these ideas about legislating behavior, enforcing behavior, it does have to go back to that old school mentality of I'm taking care of myself and nothing else. And if the world comes at me, I'm going to do what I got to do. And that's where I'm leaving it, at least. But we can do final thoughts and pick another topic here to basically talk to death as well. Final thoughts here on the show. Ross and I never know what we are going to say when it comes to this part. And we just lay it out there, discuss maybe a little bit, and then we head on out. So for me, my final thought is a little more hopeful than what we've been talking about here. And it has to do with what Ross alluded to earlier about redistricting lines, redrawing states, gerrymandering, and all that stuff. In doing a little research, I have found out that when it comes to all the states that can redraw districts in time for 2026, there are a total of 3 states, including California, that are blue states that can redraw their lines. And out of all the states out there, there's a possibility of 15 states, including Texas, that are considered red that can redraw lines to give a further advantage. Now, will each one do that? We just had a discussion. Hell no, because we have a lot of self-hating Republicans out there that won't do that and think that we're not playing fair and all that other nonsense. But at the end of the day, it may not even matter because with 2028 coming, a new election for a new president, and with the census coming along, you're going to find that the biggest blue states are losing population to red states. States like Idaho are going to get representatives. Guess which way they're going to go? States like Texas, states like Florida are seeing influx of the population. So my message to any Democrat out there saying, well, do you want to have a redistricting war in the middle of the year? Yeah, I do. Because that's a war that Republicans have an advantage on and that they can actually win. So bring it on, Gavin Newsom. Bring it on, Kathy Hochul, even though you can't do it till 2028. Bring it on, Pritzker. I almost said Pricker, but you get what I mean by him. Bring it on, and let's play this game. And that's my final thought.
Speaking of bringing it on, my final thought, the Democrats have a serious man problem. And I mean real men, like biological, heterosexual man problem. So what do? They nominate a Muslim communist named Mamdani for mayor in New York City. The guy can't bench press 135 pounds. By the way, on TV, it looked like it was less than 135 pounds. Couldn't lift it, needed a spotter. These people are soft, they're cowards, and they're weak. Do not fear them and fight, fight, fight. That's my final thought.
Yeah, meanwhile, did you see the that candidate out of Minnesota? We've been talking about Minnesota so much. The candidate who had his this guy Omar Fateh, who had
that scrawny-looking Somali refugee.
Yeah, the guy's face and head looks like an upside-down pyramid, doesn't it?
Give him a cheeseburger. The guy looks like he just left a starving place from Africa, for God's sake.
Yeah, but he did get his endorsement kind of revoked because they said that they did the process wrong or something like that. I was intrigued by that, and I tried to have a little hope from it, but I guess not. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry to be some downers this week, but that's what the news cycle has brought us, gang. Hopefully the next news cycle after Labor Day weekend already. Jesus Christ. This year is flying by. Hopefully after Labor Day, we'll be having some more fun stuff to talk about. Yeah, let's leave it there. I'm Gene, he's Ross. We are Behind Enemy Lines. You ready to shut this fucker down, man?
Shut it down, Mr. Berardelli.
I will not be upset to see this show go. I want to get to happier stuff. Hope you guys have a great week, a happy week, a fun week. a fun Labor Day weekend. But until next time, we are out of here. So let's play that fucking anthem.
Not allowed, not without electro.
Go fuck yourself. Is that clear?
Teeth, don't let them have sway. Conservative battalions walking them out, marching through the streets while the buffoons all shout. Move in the shadows, flag on my chest, repping my clan, putting faith to the test. Cause left face blues behind enemy lines, fighting for the truth, feels like wartime. Don't back down, keep it rugged and raw, cool in the chaos, but loud in the roar. But loud in the roar. Thunder, arm in advance, march to the anthem, this is our chance. If I ever stand with a smirk in a gaze, holding down the fort in this Democrat cage. Whistles in the dark, strategies unfold, allies unseen, but bonds remain bold. Committed to the cause in the heart of the storms, in the name of freedom we're breaking the norm. Cause let's stay blues behind enemy lines, fighting for the truth, feels like wartime. Don't back down, keep it rugged and raw. Feels like wartime, don't back down, keep it rugged and raw. Cool in the chaos, but loud.